Look, I'm not trying to alarm you, but you may want to check your mailbox because it's possible you've been charged by the PGMOL. This is the ArsenalVision Post-Match Podcast. My name's Elliot Smith. You can block me on Twitter, Yankee Gunner. Yeah, it seems like the PGMOL wants to go to war with Arsenal. And I don't know. Is that their remit, or are they just meant to be sort of an unknown organization that works in the background to allow referees to referee games where the actual stars of the clubs people care about perform? I don't know. Heard it both ways. I guess we'll have to see how it plays out. We are going to, unfortunately, discuss PGMOL again today and the charge that they have leveled at Arsenal. We are going to start the pod with transfer talk. We will even discuss the Girona game, if for no other reason than to praise to the rafters one Ethan Nwaneri, who is too good for his age, certainly, but just right for Arsenal. We will talk about the Champions League draw permutations and even look ahead to the City games. So strap in. I will tell you tomorrow, we are doing scouting. We're going to do scouting videos tomorrow, whether or not any of them are relevant. As of time of recording, who that might be is up for grabs. Might be Watkins, might be Tell, might be, we've already done Lee Kang, right? We've done that. Sorry, did I get that backwards? Gosh, I am having one of those days, everybody. We're not recording at our usual time. Lee Kang in. That's right. Okay. Panicked myself for a moment there. No need to edit. Good thing. It's one less thing I have to do today. But yeah, we'll be looking at some transfer targets on the scouting video tomorrow with Clive, and we'll do a section ahead of the scouting video where we do the week in review. We'll probably talk about the City game coming up as well. So there's all that tomorrow with Clive. All that you get today, he says, what you really get is the benefit of me talking to Paul. Hello, Paul.
Hello. Woohoo.
Yeah, there it is. That's the one. How are you?
I'm good. I don't know why I went all high-pitched and squeaky, but I did. I'm good. We won yesterday.
I'm excited to have a chat with you. You and I haven't had an old school chat. Like, if you think about it, back when the pod was, I don't know, you might say terrible, was you and me doing this sort of thing. We've come full circle. You know, the GIF, look at us. Who would have thought? Not me.
Yeah.
That's me. That's what we're doing.
Yeah. Yeah, we get on these days. It's great. We agree with each other.
Well, we don't agree, but we get on. So that's a start. That's a starting point. All right, we got a lot to get to. And so while I could sit here and waffle with you for ages about all kinds of nonsense, let's start with the transfer stuff, because I think it is, as we record, January 30th. Monday is when the window closes. There's final European ties that'll be wrapping up today, I guess, in those other competitions we once upon a time cared about and thankfully don't have to right now. Champions League is wrapped up, and so clubs are starting to get a clearer picture of what's happening with them. Looks like the Saudi clubs, I mean, Al Nassr, I think, is trying to throw their weight around a bit right now. Moves are starting to shake out. There's some rumors of Matisse Tell maybe going to Tottenham. Go ahead, throw your career away. Jean Dran maybe going to Saudi Arabia. There's a lot in the works, but the one that we were linked with that I want to start with is Ollie Watkins. I don't know if we're going to be able to get that done. There's rumors that our opening bid was 40 million or below. Feels a little bit like just wanting to float a trial balloon, like see if there's something there. It also says to me that that's not the guy we really wanted, because if we really wanted him, I don't think that's the opening bid you go with. What's your take on the current transfer window situation in the Ollie Watkins bid in particular?
Well, I blame you, Elliot. I think your talk of age curves has infected the Arsenal hierarchy. I'm pretty sure the young lads would be listening to you.
Just
like
a
the
few years
guys.
Too late to not give Aubameyang that second contract, Paul. Just a few years.
Yeah. Well, I think you've screwed the pooch. Is that a thing? Pooed the scrooch?
Yeah. What I do in my own time is my own business. No king shaming. But anyway, go ahead.
Leave the pooch alone. The data people, I get why we wouldn't be offering 80 or whatever ridiculous number Villa would be looking for, because that's a lot of money for Ollie Watkins. He's very good. Like we've talked about him recently. He's very good. I like him a lot. I'd absolutely want him at the right price. I think, I've shared my theory. He has a very young face, young body. I think he's got an extra maybe year or two in him above the average. Just my hunch. So, of course, we'll have people who know all his physiognomy and have all the data on him and where he's at. So, like, if we're going for him, great. I like him who he is. I like who he is for the next couple of years. I think we could really use him. He's generally a good fitness profile. Mostly seems to be fit and available for them. he'd get loads of game time for us. I think, wasn't he a boyhood Arsenal supporter as well? You know, who cares? But
He's been very he's been very public about that. The dream is to play for Arsenal. He's said it.
Yep. So I absolutely do it at a somewhat reasonable price. We're going to have to pay over the odds. We do that. But then this isn't about getting value right at this moment. There's a lot on the line for us. We've got a season in flux. We've got a Champions League in flux. You can't sit out a season by saying, "Oh, we'll just consolidate here." You've always, if you don't push forward, you slip back. It's clear to me from Mikel Arteta's pressers and when he's asked on it, he's talking like a guy who thinks we're going to do something over the next few days. So at the end of the day, you have to take your best options. On the other hand, I don't think Aston Villa, why would they sell him if they're selling Girona and they're getting good? It'd be nuts.
Well, stand by on that because there are some arguments here. First of all, they're in a really tricky PSR situation.
Mm-hmm.
They are almost certainly not going to qualify for the Champions League at the end of this season. At least I would not think so.
Well, hang on. Unai Emery said, or through their journalist said something like, not only do they not want to sell Ollie Watkins, they don't want to sell him to a top 4 rival. I checked the table. They're 8th. But anyway, Champions League places, they still have pretensions, at least in front of their fans.
Yeah, that's fair. But I mean, they don't realistically, and the people that run the club have to understand that they may be facing a season without Champions League next season and the revenue that comes with it. They have bought Daniel Malen. It looks like they are attempting to pull off João Felix, I think on loan from Chelsea. And if they can get money for Jean Duran and Ollie Watkins, it helps with their PSR situation. But here's something that's going to astound you. They have a 96% wages to turnover ratio.
Jesus Christ.
You can't operate that way. And Ollie Watkins, I think, is their highest earner. And he's on a contract till 2028. So this is their one chance. Who's going to come in with big money for Ollie Watkins, who they have to pay big money till 2028, till he's in his 32, 33-year-old season, I believe. Like, if they've got PSR issues and they want to get out from under a 96% wages to turnover ratio, getting $77 million for Duran and getting Watkins off the books and a good fee in, you have Malen, you get Felix on loan for now. There's another guy. They're looking at Axel Diassi, I think, for the defense. So they're spending some money. They're spending some effing money. I don't think it's out of the question that a guy who loves and wants to play for Arsenal, who's 29 years old, who's on a big wage at a club that has a wage ratio issue, I don't think, Paul, even though it would be, the fans wouldn't love it, but if Malen and Felix are in and Duran and Watkins are out, it could make the health of the club look better. So again, I'm not saying I think it'll happen, but that would be the argument for why they would do it.
It sounds to me like you think it'll happen. Look,
it's going to happen today as we record.
Look at you with all the facts and the stats and stuff. Look, I knew all of that stuff, but
of course
you need somebody to play off. You need a stooge, a patsy, a straight man.
Thank you for giving me a platform to be your patsy, your stooge.
Yeah, but no, the other way around. But that was pretty convincing. So yes, I think it's going to happen.
Well, wait a minute.
You're very persuasive. You should get into some line of work which involves persuading people to do what it is you want them to do, Elliot.
I left that line of work many, many, many years ago because I was shit at it. But, well, look, Paul, there's the other thing is that Unai Emery's comments after their match yesterday, where they beat Celtic in the Champions League to lock up Champions League qualification, it should be noted, so they will want to do well there. He made some weird comment that was sort of like, it would take a very big offer, which is, I think we call that equivocal, not unequivocal.
It'd have to be really big, he said.
But Paul, like, let's be honest. You show up for their prime striker, their key man, and offer $40 million for a British Premier League proven high-end striker. That says to me, I'm not going to get into the derisory offer nonsense. Who cares about that? What that says to me is we would do it if it was cheap, but it's not who we really want.
Yeah. Or it might be, yes. Okay, so yes. Also, I saw a little bit about the reporting through journalists, and I could imagine Ollie Watkins' side briefing on this. He's got a tough choice ahead of him whether he really wants to push. He's so conflicted. It's like so they're playing that thing, and I think maybe Arsenal don't want to get screwed here, but no, they have a stronger hand than it might feel, that the player's actually going to really push.
Yeah.
And, you start somewhere, you negotiate quickly. This is textbook book negotiating. Go in low, they completely dismiss it out of hand. Several days later, they come to an accord. So I could still see a pattern where this happens. I've certainly seen a pattern where they said, "Piss off, no way," and they meant it. We've seen that one before. But this could be, "Piss off, no way. Okay, let's start negotiating. You say 40, we say 80. We meet at 60." How would you feel about 60, Elliot?
So people are going to be stunned to hear this.
Yeah.
I'd absolutely go for Ollie
You've no
Watkins.
principles.
I know. I have the age curve thing. Let me tell you my new curve. My new curve is the curve of the ball going into the back of the net, which is a thing we could use. Here's the thing. First of all, these kinds of strikers, in the Premier League last season, 19 goals, 13 assists. That doesn't grow on trees. Now, the reason you might say, well, you used to be so obsessed with age curves. Why did that matter? Because what you need to do in the market when you're trying to take an 8th place team back to the top is different from the last missing piece to take you over the line. We're in our winning window now. You could very easily convince me that this season, and the next 2 or 3 max seasons are the winning window for the group as we've constructed it. Some might start to leave after that. You might run into some issues. You just don't know. But the winning window is open, especially if City go down or something like that. So this is the winning window. And the missing piece for us in the winning window is what? It's striker. And here's a guy who has 19 goal season in the Premier League last season. By the way, still a facilitating player as well. If you sort by XG per 90 this season, only Salah, Haaland, and Isak are above him. Salah, Haaland, and Isak. I would say they are the tier 1 right now, and Salah's not a striker, so take him out of the equation. Isak and Haaland, clear tier 1. Watkins is not in their tier. I do not regard him as good as them, but he's that next tier down. He's the thing we don't have. And oh, by the way, like that we don't know that there's one out there because you tell me Benjamin Sesko, work in progress, not sure what he is, not sure how he develops. Matisse Tell, he's hardly played anywhere at all. He could be a star. He could be a nothing. That is a player you buy if you've got years to bring along a player, not if you're trying to win leagues and Champions Leagues this season, next season, the season after. So to wrap up this rant, what I would say is you should have a balance on a team. You don't want a lot of your money or a lot of your contracts in guys who are 30 years old. Absolutely not. But we don't have that. We've got most of our talent stacked in early prime, maybe a couple in mid prime. You can afford one guy who's at that top end 29-year-old, 30-year-old age, who is that last big spending piece. And so for me, Paul, looking at the market, looking at what's out there, if this is realistic, the guy who is currently 4th in the league behind the 3 superstars of the league in expected goals per 90, who did 19 goals and 13 assists last season, feels like the literal round peg, round hole thing this team needs to go to the next level.
Yeah. As long as the money is not ridiculous, I think he's almost perfect for short of having the perfect option of Isak available. And
yes, that's fair, but I'm going to say I don't think Isak can be gotten.
Yeah, period. I don't think so either. But if he were available and if he were guaranteed to be fully fit, which he doesn't seem yet to be capable of, Isak's perfection. Ollie Watkins, I think, is a really good Isak analog. He's older, he's cheaper, he's less good, but he's very much the Isak profile. And I think he's an absolutely perfect fit in terms of how he plays for what we do. He's different to what we have. We get all sorts of mileage out of him, whether he starts, whether he's off the bench. He's just. I think he'd be exactly what we need on the run, and we still leaves us the space to get the super striker in a year's time or 2 years' time when that comes about, and buys us the time to wait for perfection whenever perfection shows up. So I think you absolutely do Ollie Watkins if it's not ridiculous money and you can get it over the line.
Yeah, and just so I don't over-egg the pudding here. I'm not calling Ollie Watkins a superstar. I am calling him a very good, reliable, high-end goal scoring and assist generating striker in the Premier League. A player that arguably needs no time to bet in, and a player who should give you relatively predictable output. And oh, by the way, fingers crossed, if we were to get him, a pretty clean bill of health, which is something Isak doesn't have. I said this on the instant reaction last night with Clive and you, but I'm going to say it again. By the way, that was a laugh riot if you want to hear that one. But any signing isn't about whether they're good or bad. Please just hear me out for a second. You should never say the player is this good. Scale of 1 to 10, he's a 7. The way you evaluate a player is with error bars, right? You say, I think he's a 7 with the error bars down to 6 or up to 9, right? That's how you think about a player, okay? When you buy a Matisse Tell, you might say, I think he's a 7. The error bars are literally down to 1 and up to 10 because he could be anything. I think Sesko falls in that category. The thing I really like about Watkins, he's not a 10, but he's an 8. By the way, I'm not saying positions. I'm saying out of 10, right? Rating. He's an 8 out of 10, but the error bars are like 7.9 and 8.1. You kind of know what you're getting. And so if you can predictably buy goals and assists at the striker position when that's the thing you're missing, and he's going to be good probably for 2 more seasons, which is your winning window, I would do it. There's a lot of minutes we've already eaten up, though, with a player we probably can't get. So I'll just move it on to say this, Paul. If it isn't Watkins, do you have any particular anger, resentment if like Matisse Tell goes to Spurs, for example, or some of these other players moving around? Duran obviously going to Saudi Arabia, it looks like. Do you have any issues with any of those moves? Like, are those moves that you feel adamant Arsenal should have been in for?
No. I like the John Duran one. There's a lot going on there, and huge amounts of money. And no. And
can I make one point about the Saudi teams, by the way, because they're coming in for Matoma now? Probably worth remembering that Al Nassr, I think, is the club. Like, they've got a FIFA Club World Cup coming up. They've got Cristiano Ronaldo. They probably think they can make some noise in that tournament. And while it's a tournament most of us don't really care about, they probably do. And that might even be attractive to players who might otherwise have not regarded that project as attractive. So that might change the calculus slightly.
I'm not angry because I think we're going to do something. I think we have a plan. So, and we just have to wait and see. It's only a few days to go now. What day did you say? February?
Monday is when it closed. Monday night. Yeah.
Yeah. So we're going to be busy. We're going to go for it. And was I hung up on Matisse Tell last week? No, I'm not. So I can't exactly pull my hair out about it now. So Ollie Watkins, I know a lot about because we watch him and he's really good and he gets in the 6-yard box.
Us.
And he's got really good movement. So yeah, bring it. And if not him, let's see who else we're going after.
Well, there's obviously the links with Nippon, who apparently is showing his wares to every club in England. We have the Odegaard connection. City have the Holland connection. Those appear to be 2 teams that are particularly in for him. Yeah. With Nippon, do you have a feel that? Look, my theory is usually if you can acquire young elite talent, do it. Just do it. There's really very little downside to doing that. I just think whether he impacts our season this season or not is probably a non-starter.
Yeah, no, he's not for this season. I think more for him psychologically, we'd want to involve him and kind of give him the early Nwaneri treatment, a minute here, a minute there, make him feel part of the process, bet him in the summer. I mean, okay, I'm a sucker for the YouTubes and the young players coming through and the promise of a player. So shoot me. I would be absolutely stoked if we get this guy based on the buzz around him, what I've heard. I think it'd be fantastic. Absolutely love to get that. Would actually really cheer me up over our January, but we still need that striker. I think we'll get him. That's my vibe. I think I think he'll come. I think he'll join the group, and we're going to have 3 phenomenal 18-ish-year-olds who are part of our first team setup, and I'm all for it. I'm here for it.
Yeah. I would just do it. I like the idea of acquiring elite young talent, but I would do it with the future of the project in mind.
Yeah,
and that's always a good thing to do. We'll probably scout him, by the way, in the scouting video tomorrow, along with maybe Matisse Tell, and probably, scouting Ollie Watkins almost feels silly because we know what he looks like. But we'll We'll come up with some stuff.
I wouldn't put anybody else in the scouting videos with Sver and Nipan. Everybody would be like, those two bums. Don't want them. We want Sver and Nipan.
Well, that would be great if that's what happens, and then we wind up signing him. So we'll put all our hopes and dreams in that guy. Okay, look, we'll probably do a live stream for deadline day. There'll be a main pod that day anyway because it's a Monday pod. So it just depends on whether there's still things happening. So stand by for that. Scouting video and weekend review tomorrow with Clive, and then obviously an instant reaction at full time of the City game. We'll come to the City game in a moment. So really quick, Paul, we've done so much time on this topic. So I want to try to handle this quickly where we each kind of have our say and move on. But Arsenal have been charged by the PGMOL for surrounding the ref. I mean, you cannot make this stuff up. I will read you the exact charge. Arsenal FC have been charged after its players surrounded a match official during their Premier League fixture against Wolverhampton Wanderers FC on Saturday, 25 January. The club allegedly failed to ensure that its players did not behave in an improper manner around the 43rd minute. Arsenal FC has until Monday, 3 February to provide a response. And I will just mention, and I took this to be passive-aggressive, but you may not have to. On X, where they posted it on Twitter, it said regulation and discipline update on @Arsenal. They routinely post these things on that platform. And I was not able to find another post where they added the club that they did. They just posted the screenshot and that was that. They know this is big news. This is them firing back. The FA, by the way, obviously rescinded the red card. The independent panel of the FA review board reversed the red card decision against Miles Lewis-Skelly, calling it an error. Michael Oliver and the VAR, have they been punished? No. Have they admitted wrongdoing? No. They've been given games this weekend in the Premier League, and the PGMOL has charged Arsenal for surrounding a referee who made a game-altering wrong decision. No wrongdoing has been admitted by the PGMOL, by Michael Oliver, by anybody involved, and now they've doubled down. So what's your take on the latest from the PGMOL crime syndicate?
Yeah, look, don't seem to be in the reffing business for the most part. They're not into big reffing; they're into big cover-up. This is it's like you're dealing with their PR arm. It's like look, maybe we did something wrong, but look, everybody, look what they did. This is getting out front and center saying disciplinary. The implication is, even though they didn't have to say it, the reason that Michael Oliver got all this terrible abuse, and nobody's up for abuse, but there's a lot of fucking idiots out there on Twitter and social media, and you don't get to call them Arsenal fans just because there's idiots on social media. It doesn't matter who it is. There are idiots out there. Unfortunately, some of them pretend to be Arsenal fans, and we don't condone it. But come on, let's get back to the actual topic, and let's not obfuscate here, which is exactly what they're trying to do here. They're trying to lead with disciplinary Arsenal crowding the ref implication. This has fired everybody up and kicked all sorts of stuff off. Gary Neville's wading in with terrible Arsenal and the behavior of Mikel Arteta, and it's like utter bull. Gary Neville has never met an authority figure he won't defend. And here's his statement on managers: "I'll never call for a manager to lose his job." What? Even if they're terrible at managing? What? They walk onto the pitch and stab
how
four
is that
players.
Relevant?
Yeah, what? That they're bad at managing?
Yeah.
There are no what are you doing? You actually did manage. It's not just like he's saying, well, I'm a player, so I don't. He did manage and he was terrible at it. So he should actually be really good at knowing what to do about a manager who's terrible. And so he's just one of those media guys, but with a particular bent that he's never going to talk against the status quo. But he's a big name and he's out there and he's following up on this and he's like, terrible Arsenal, terrible Arteta. Basically, we kind of have this stuff coming to us. It was the whole dark arts thing earlier in the season, which meant that even though the decisions were maybe a little unfair, if we didn't do this crime, we did the other crimes, and this is what you get, you reap what you... And it was utter bullshit. There was no dark Arsenal. No dark arts. There was we had it coming. These were the only crimes. They were minor and nobody else got punished for them. And by the way, you were probably wrong. So yeah, this is just massive PR, cover up territory, hard web, South Yorkshire police force. They know how to close ranks, protect their guys, uh, dangle some distraction over to one side to take the heat out of it. Hey, we've both done some wrong here, but we're not going to admit to our wrong, but we're definitely going to prosecute you on your wrong.
Yeah. It's terrible. It is
Cowardly.
really well. And so, first of all, this to me is the PGMOL saying we're going to war with Arsenal. We are going to war with Arsenal. Arsenal have disrespected one of our refs. They've embarrassed us. They got the media to criticize us. They brought attention against us. And there's one man that this reflects on. It's Howard Webb. Now, I want to be careful how I say this for fear of saying it in a way that could be construed as a message that I don't mean. But Howard Webb, I think has a background in law enforcement, and I do think that law enforcement bands together and defends itself when it is criticized from without. Right? There's an us against them mentality in those kinds of organizations, and you won't get away with coming for us. You can moralize or opine upon that another time. It's not my place to do it. But I think he has come from that world where he was imbued with significant power to control the people whom he's meant to serve. That there's an us against them, circle the wagons mentality in the organization of we are in charge. It's not we serve them, it's that they do what we tell them. It's not that we serve them, it's that they do what we tell them. Circle the wagons, us against them. You come for us, we come for you. And I think it all flows from Howard Webb. I think that is the mentality. The fact that they have admitted no wrongdoing, that they have seen this as an assault on them, I think tells you everything about Webb and his mentality. The fact that Webb has made the rule changes more about the refs being the center of the occasion, the center of the spectacle, while making player protection, by the way, a lower level of consideration. I think these are all things that reflect on Webb and the PGMOL. Maybe it's rotten top to bottom, but at minimum, I just don't know how Webb can survive. And if you come after the big clubs, eventually, if Howard Webb thinks he has power, I don't think you want to go up against billionaires. So like it could reach a level where this gets quite ugly behind the scenes. I don't know if it will. I don't even know if Stan Kroenke and KSE care about it enough for it to get really ugly. I will read you what Henry Winter said, because I think he's correct. Arsenal players' wrongness around the ref. Well, but one, they were complaining about a wrong decision that then got overturned. And two, the FA has to be consistent and charge every team whose players surround the refs. Refs deserve respect. Players deserve consistency and correct decisions. And it goes back to what we just discussed the other day. If you're used to driving your whole life and every time you drive through a yellow light, you don't get a ticket, then one day you get a ticket while you see other people not getting a ticket for it, you don't know how to drive anymore. Naturally, Arsenal fans have taken to social media to post loads of screenshots of players surrounding refs where nothing was done. So to me, there is only one conclusion. The PGMOL is saying, Arsenal, you think you can come for us? We're going to come for you. And the thing that's scary about it is, what will this mean for the way we are refereed the balance of the season? Because you know who doesn't deserve this? The players. The Arsenal players don't deserve this. You know who else doesn't deserve this? Us. We're just trying to watch football, enjoy the game, enjoy the players, back the team. Have a distraction from our lives and something that we love and care about. And here's this organization that should be so behind the scenes, like watching the Champions League game the other night, even when the temperature came up, even with the penalty. I don't know the guy's name. I don't, he didn't lose his rag. He didn't try to be the centerpiece of the spectacle. But we just live in a totally different world in the Premier League where the refs are the show. And it is a reflection of Howard Webb to me, Paul. And like this business of charging Arsenal with this, all the PGMOL had to do was just let it go. Keep Oliver in the championship for a week, let it go. Some tacit admission that there was wrongdoing here. It dies out of the media cycle. But instead, they've decided to double down on it. And that doubling down, again, to me, is about Webb and the way he views this as we're in charge and you will be subservient to us. You will comply with us,
Yeah, it's the distracto machine, the cover up, the change the narrative, change the story, redirect the press, redirect the media to talk about. We should only be talking about how bad the refereeing decision making is and how we make it better and how we improve it. Did they step forward and say, you know what, we really screwed up here, lads? We're going to work on this. We're going to work on our side. We're going to work with you. That would have been really, really good. But it just amazingly, there seems to be an Arsenal refereeing rule book. Here's how we will referee Arsenal. And we all say, well, if it was consistent, but we also know as soon as we got the words out, it's not going to be consistent. They're not going to apply. What they'll learn is, oh, that was a really bad idea what we did to Arsenal. Let's stop doing it and not do it to anybody else. It's always us. They even sometimes have rules that come in with in the preseason where they're briefing everybody that it's an Arteta rule. Him running out of his box was a
Yeah.
big thing.
Yeah.
And they were briefing, we don't want any more of that Arteta stuff. Or the set pieces, the Ben, they were briefing. It's the Ben White thing. We want to cut that. Like they specifically bring in rules for us, then never bother applying to anybody else. And when it's not specifically for us, they still apply it to us, like this bloody kicking the ball away thing, and never really do it to anybody else. But hey, we lost 2 guys in 2 games, so
This
there'll
is the
be no
problem.
consistency.
This is a war that to me seems like it can only have losers and no winners, because we could be refereed differently. We could be treated differently, and our season can be ruined. And by the same token, the integrity of the PGMOL will just continue to come under question, come under fire, the integrity of the league, and everybody goes to war with everybody and nobody wins. And so I don't know how you tone down the rhetoric. I don't know how you take down the temperature, but it really is an astonishing decision. After the red card has been overturned, you've been shown to have made an error by an independent panel. The wider media has taken the side that it's a wrong decision. And all you have to do, send the ref to the championship for a week, say nothing, move on. They make the decision to make a public statement that they are charging Arsenal, and they give Oliver a Premier League game, and they give the VAR a Premier League game. To me, this is throwing down a gauntlet and saying, no, we're not letting it go. You don't get to come at us. You don't get to embarrass us. You don't get to turn the media against us. We are in charge here. I'm Howard Webb. I make the rules. You comply or you will be punished. And that's a scary thing. So we'll see how it shakes out. But I think, be careful what you wish for, Howard Webb, because eventually you will be such the main character that a lot of times in movies, it's the main character who winds up
Get killed.
Yeah, exactly. Not saying,
Good.
just so we're clear about language, we're saying sometimes the main character winds up leaving the story, right? And I think Howard Webb, his job will certainly be in question, and the role of the PGMOL itself. So we'll see what happens. We will absolutely see what happens. I think we should pivot now to the Girona game so we can praise young Ethan Nwaneri. Talk about a couple things that happened in that game.
He was a stock falling for me, Elliot. I just want to flag that one up front.
Huge stock falling for Ethan Nwaneri.
I'm very tough on the young guys because they're not at the level. Yeah,
counterculture take. Replace them with Nippon. That's Paul's opinion. So we'll do that. We're going to talk about that. We'll talk about the CL draw and then the City game. We got all that to come. But first, I mean, if you want to watch videos of people complaining about PGMOL or backing the PGMOL, you might need a VPN to do it. You might need a VPN to watch football. You might need a VPN to watch a streaming show. I had a show I was watching, and the next season came out in Australia, but it wasn't out here. Well, I can VPN in Australia and watch it. Bingo, done. So what do? You just get NordVPN. NordVPN is great because you put the app on any device you're using, Apple, Mac, PC, Android, whatever you got, tablet, computer. You tell it where you want to browse, and it takes care of the rest. Okay, so it's very, very easy. The speeds are rated very highly. That's an important thing. You don't want to lose internet speed when you're using a VPN. Seeing great reviews on the speed of the service. It also gives you threat protection because sometimes as a football fan, you're watching on streams that may threaten your computer or your device. So it has threat protection as well. And NordVPN.com/ArsenalVision is the place to go to get a huge discount off your NordVPN plan plus 4 months for free. It's completely risk-free with Nord's 30-day money-back guarantee. So grab your exclusive NordVPN deal by going to NordVPN.com/ArsenalVision. Get a huge discount off your NordVPN plan plus 4 additional months on top. It's completely risk-free with Nord's 30-day money-back guarantee. No risk. Do it. NordVPN.com/ArsenalVision. Do it now. And we got to tell you about Shopify. So I built e-commerce sites on Shopify. We once upon a time had a merch store here, but then was putting a lot of time and effort and energy into that. And I decided, you know what? There's only so much time and effort and energy you can put into things. We will try to bring a merch store back. By the way, I know some people have said they like the mugs. They want the mugs again. Maybe we'll do what Andrew did and get a mug for charity and get that out to you. So all things we can work on. But the thing that I noticed when I used Shopify is I was able to build an e-commerce store that looked like any of the professional e-commerce sites I shop from, that told people, oh, you need to add this to your cart, or did you forget to add this to your cart, or, this is available, this goes with that, or took care of the shipping options. Do you want express shipping or regular? Took care of the tax options, did all that behind the scenes, put the products on Instagram, put them on TikTok, put them on Twitter and Facebook and all that. So you don't have to. All I had to do was drag and drop things into the place I wanted them to go, write up the title and description of the product and the price, and Shopify made it look so professional. So how does established in 2025 sound for your business? Has a nice ring to it? Then sign up for $1 per month trial period at shopify.com/ArsenalVision, all lowercase. Go to shopify.com/ArsenalVision to start selling with Shopify today. Shopify.com/ArsenalVision. Do it now. Oh, is that enough of that?
Indeed.
Nailed it. Okay, now that that's out of the way. The Girona game, it was a case of maybe going stronger than some people might have liked, but actually a lot of good rotation as well. Saliba had the night off. David Raya had the night off, but we will come to the fact that David Raya may not have had the night off. He may not be fit, which would be scary given what happened in this game. So we got to see young Neto start between the sticks. He's young to me, guys. He's young to me. Ethan Nwaneri got to start, which is super exciting. And what I would say about this game is very simple. We were just much, much, much better than Girona. But despite being much better than Girona, they got in front due to, let's say it, a little bit of slack defending, holding his line from Ricardo Calafiori, who was a very bright spot in this game, but I think maybe defensively still learning to hold the line, still getting used to his partners. And Norberto Neto, who felt that the best place to keep the shot out was from 4 yards out of his penalty area. So can we just start a little bit with Neto also had a slip earlier in the game. This was a gentle reminder of why he has not been used and how desperate we are to have Raya be fit for the weekend and literally every game for the rest of the season.
Yeah, but we're very harsh. The guy hasn't played in how many months is it now?
A lot, but you're not allowed to save the ball from outside of your penalty box. I don't think you have to play. I've never played, and I knew that.
I'm sorry. He comes in. What was Ramsdale's challenge? He talked about it himself that he felt uncomfortable playing higher up the pitch. He sees Raya comes in. Raya plays even more up the pitch, more aggressive, gets loads of praise for it. Neta's just like, if I'm going to get in this team, I got to really play up the pitch. Now, he's lost his bearings on where the box ends, but he's out there 10 yards in front of the box, diving to save shots. He's doing his best to accommodate the new thinking. Seriously, though, he's probably comes into this game trying to play much more aggressively up the pitch than he's ever really played in his life. He's trying to make that adjustment, and he's he's in no man's land. He's lost what to do. He's never goal kept in that area of the pitch before, and panics. But it's bad luck. It's a bad luck. He has slipped before that. He looks super. So one of two things: he's either terrible or he was super nervous and trying way too hard. And he's got that one out of his system. He was better in the second half. And maybe he's quite good, but maybe we'll never see him again. So,
yeah, I would say this. I do think after he conceded, largely he settled down and did what was needed. The shots that were hit straight at him, he handled them well. He distributed fine. I don't want to oversell it, but that was enough, that moment, for me to see. I think you made the important point, Paul. This didn't look like a guy who felt comfortable playing in the zones or knowing when to be in the zones that Raya is in. And so just candidly, you wouldn't want to have to rely on him a lot. Let's put it that way. My second refrigerator theory on this one is, as long as Raya's fit, who cares if you have a bad second refrigerator? The garage refrigerator doesn't need to be a great
one. The refrigerator isn't in the kitchen. It's in the living room, standing beside you, watching the TV with you, because he thought that's what you wanted.
That's where you want your fridge, because then you don't have to get up and go to it. It wasn't great, but we will cross all fingers and toes, because Mikel did say after the match that Raya wasn't rested. He could not have played. That doesn't mean he could not have played this coming Sunday, but he said he could not have played on Wednesday. Okay, before we get to the Ethan praise, there is one thing I wanted to ask you about. As I watched us play this game, our press was very good. Girona were not as good as us. We were the better team and very dominant, but I just feel like there is a real lack of sort of verticality, just that like progressive passing in the final third. There were a lot of interesting runs being made by Sterling, I thought, by Ethan, by Calafiori, who would drop into that Tomiyasu zone that we sometimes see, where he's actually at the top of the box, turning and making himself available. And whether it's Marino or Odegaard, I thought just a little too willing to recycle, just a little too slow to, or unwilling to play that pass. And with Marino, I'm prepared to just say, well, maybe that's just not who he is, whatever. But with Odegaard, we know he can. I thought this was another game with Odegaard where I'm hoping he's going to come back to his scintillating best. And right now he's very much sort of playing within himself. So do you have any thoughts on Odegaard maybe struggling? It's weird, right? Because it's not like he's terrible. He's involved, but struggling to find the cutting edge in the final third that we associate with him.
I mean, yeah, I didn't get the same vibe in this game overall than you did. So I look forward to just straight up disagreeing with you here.
Let's do it.
But like, I'd agree with you. Odegaard is not in his scintillating, most eye-catching form. But not every game needs to be like that. Sometimes you let, like, I thought some of Nwaneri had a couple of really clever through passes behind the lines. I thought, we got it from slightly different places. Partey was playing right back. He had some good probing passes. Calafiori, rather than his runs, I thought his passing was very probing through the lines. I thought he had some really clever passes, especially in the first half. So I thought we did pretty good probing them and pressing them. It was just a bit of a kind of lose. Our problem was going the other way. We were kind of porous. I think it was the change in personnel, some newer guys, a different look back line, all of whom should have been fine, but Calafiori doesn't actually play for us very much, so he's basically a new face. Thomas Partey is not your ideal right back. Kivior is your right centre back, not Gabriel's normal part, Jorginho in front of them. It's all a bit different. And it was just enough between, Nwaneri, Trossard at centre forward. It's like individually, it's pretty much all fine, but basically every player on the pitch, Sterling, left wing, it was basically a whole new team.
Yeah.
Those people have never kind of played with each other, at least not for a while. And we were just a bit porous. So we were the better team, but they had the better chances in the first half. They cut through us. They cut us open. We were almost self-cutting at one point in terms of giving them the ball. There was a lot of, they must have got in at halftime thinking, "Ooh, we fancy this. We're really getting our good looks here," even though we were the better team. But we couldn't sustain. We didn't have that technical security. That was more the issue for me. I think we probed enough, but I agree. And I think so. Here's what I'd say on Mikel Marino. I thought he started real hot. He was very clever, probing early on. First 10, 15 minutes, I'm like, here we go. Here's the game I was looking for. And then he settled down into the game that tends to bother you a little from him, a little bit more ploddy average, but I still think it's really good. I like that kind of game. I don't think he's there for all of the sizzle. I think he's there for some of the sizzle some of the time, but mostly he's there to make that side work, and I think it did work. So I kind of want to see it a bit more over time. He still hasn't set me alight to justify my enthusiasm for my first signing. I think I have seen enough of him where I think, yeah, he is actually really clever at that midfield play. I want to see a bit more sizzle. I know he hasn't set you alight for sure at this point, but I thought it was a good game from him. Started super bright and then went to kind of solid, good, but
won the ball a ton. Certainly, I think led us in ball recoveries, and we know that part of his game is part of the USP with him. I would say that, in a way, the sending off of Miles Lewis-Skelly against Wolves really obviated any analysis of that game from a performance standpoint. But I think if we look at the first half against Wolves, and again, no Odegaard or Saka in that game, but the worst defensive unit in the Premier League, and the paucity of chances we created there, and the way we played against Girona, I think what we're seeing is this is what makes me slightly nervous. a very mix and match Arsenal team constantly being put out, where partnerships and the relationships on the pitch are different. And combine that with our absolutely elite talent players either not being available or being totally shagged out in the case of like Saka or Kai or whatever it is. And you wind up with a recipe for this, which is sort of a functional but slightly stodgy performance that's rougher around the edges than you'd expect, with maybe a little less cutting edge in the final third and maybe a little bit less organization at the back. No Saliba in this game. Calafiori comes into the back line. Thomas Partey's in the back line. Norberto Neto's in the back line. So yeah, the back line looked a little more discombobulated. And then in the front three, Leo, Ethan, Sterling. You wouldn't say that's a front three that would be a first choice for any team. And we were doing some interesting things, by the way. There were some periods in the first half where I was like, have we shifted to relationalism instead of positionalism? Because Odegaard was going over to the left, along with Marino, along with Calafiori. And we were getting huge clusters of players over there. And we were producing some really interesting openings, but just not playing the pass. Now, the tale of two careers was going on in this game, Paul. Because in Sterling, you had a bright performance early, and he curls one just past the post. And then he gets his moment later to finally get his Arsenal goal, and he misses the penalty. And then on the other side, you have the 17-year-old who sparkles and fizzes and pops, and all of a sudden, what does he do? He cuts it onto his left. Saka style, Ian Robin style, curls it right in. It's his night. It's his winner. And it's a special night for Ethan Nwaneri. So instead of focusing too much on Sterling, whose Arsenal loan just seems to be cursed, let's focus on a 17-year-old producing the kind of output that our hopes for him are so high that I think sometimes we fail to appreciate how rare what he's doing really is. Do you want to appreciate that for a minute?
I do. And I feel like it's right on track with what we talked about with him. Of course, you see a player like that and he has individual brilliance in his boots. In fact, I'm just remembering Mikel Marino's comments from yesterday on Ethan Nwaneri. He talks about how the rest of the team is really helping him on the kind of positional, tactical thing around him. And that matches up because from the moment we saw him, we said, okay, that guy's got it in his boots. He's got all the skills. Hey, he should play all the minutes. No. He needs to be successful for him. He's a young guy. Physically, he needs to develop. Tactically, he needs to learn how it all works. And that's a two-way street. The other players need a player who's not just has brilliant moments, but is doing the things that supports the level of the team, that maintains the attack, the technical security, that the players are in the positions you expect them to be, that make the runs that work for other players. Most of your play is really for other players. It's not for you to look brilliant. It's for you to do the things that make the team function. And we saw from him early in the season that he did some brilliant things, usually with 20 minutes to go or 10 minutes to go against in a kind of more open mode where it's attack, and it looked great. And then we saw him in games where he got a bit more minutes against your Evertons who are sitting in or whoever it might be. And like he doesn't have the space and the opportunity to shine. And that's when you're part of a tactical system really matter. And I think we always expected that the first half of his season would be him acclimating, learning, becoming part of mentally, physically, tactically. And now, as we expected in the second half of the season, he's going to have a really big influence potentially as we go forward. And we discussed what position, and a few of us liked the idea of him from the right. He seems to have all the attributes pretty much Saka has. Of course, Saka's at world-class levels. Ethan, still a young fella coming along. He's certainly got the ability, but he seems to have almost all the same attributes as an analog to Saka, and he had a fantastic game. And you mentioned it, the Arscast was talking about it. You know what he's going to do on that shot.
Yep.
But in the same way, you don't actually know what he's going to do because he has that thing Saka and Robin do where they knock out one stage inside them and they can take the shot, but the shot isn't on, so they knock it again. So you're like, you know what they're going to do, but you don't know how many times they're going to knock out one more time till they get the angle. And he goes one more time. We've seen Saka do that. I think we've seen Saka do even one more, and he cuts it back to the near side. Like they can take 3-4 different positions where they're kind of surfing the back line waiting for the opening. So you know where he's gone, what he's going to try. You just don't know which one of those moments he's going to pull that trigger. And he's got the low back lift, hammers it, the curve. He looked like he had all the space in the world. He arced it so well, and he got the drop on them so well, even though they knew where he was going. He seemed to have all the space on the left-hand side to curve it in. So, and beyond that, before that, he was having a really good game. It wasn't a one-off moment. You could see he was the guy that was giving them the problems, Saka-esque in so many ways. And okay, it was Girona. But he dominated. It was also Girona for Sterling, and Sterling I thought was quite good, but he didn't light it up. Nwaneri lit it up. So you still got to, may just be Girona, but you still got to take him apart, and he did.
Yeah, I mean, if you wanted to diagnose the areas for Nwaneri to improve, they're there, sure. But you have to evaluate where he is at 17 versus other players. And this is a guy who has 6 goals for Arsenal, a hat trick in the League Cup, a Champions League goal, 2 Premier League goals at 17. He won't turn 18 till March. And I do think that if he's going to be our right 8 of the future, or play 8 in general, because Odegaard's here for a while, I think that there are aspects of his game, to your point, tactically to still develop and decision making. I think the single biggest thing I'd ask of Ethan is, obviously, can you give the ball a little quicker? He backs himself to beat his man so often and to get his shot off. And that is a skill that is going to lead him to be a superstar. What Saka added the ability to go to his right foot and to release the ball to his teammates with the right weight and the right tempo. That wasn't there from the start. He developed that. Ethan had a couple of times I thought he got the ball deep and carried it into the box and didn't get the pass away because it was on his right. He wanted to cut it back to his left, and that's totally understandable. And by the way, his left's good enough that if that's all he ever does, he's still going to be a star. I think he just shows poise and quality light years beyond where he is age-wise. I would also say that while I still think his game is a work in progress because he's 17, if you're asking me who should start on the right for Arsenal going forward, and the options are Sterling or Martinelli out of position, or I'd start Ethan. Do you have a strong lean on that? I mean, has Ethan Nwaneri shown you enough that in most situations, all right, maybe it's not like back to the wall type, maybe not at Anfield or maybe even not against City, but by and large, especially if the attacking onus is going to be on us, is he your preferred right wing option right now in the absence of Saka?
Yeah, I think from a tipping point standpoint, he's like psychologically starting to know the job now. So if it's him versus, like, we have Trossard, we have Martinelli, and they can't bring it to the level he can on the right hand side, but they maybe know the detail, the duty across 70, 80 minutes at Anfield or against Liverpool at home. They'll have that 80 minutes of concentration, knowing what the job is without the ball. So that's where they would get the edge, but certainly has the edge over Sterling for me. And in most games, he'd be, at this point, he would be my first choice. Obviously, the manager needs to take into account a lot of other facts, but he gets the off-ball work. His sprints back to cover a fullback or a winger who's sprinting down the pitch.
Mm-hmm.
He gives it 100. He makes sure he gets back. He's really fast. He's serious in his coverage. He gets back for those. He's technically very secure, so he doesn't spill the ball and drop you in it up. He's got that Saka-esque thing of close control. Doesn't spill balls unnecessarily. His decision making on the pass occasionally might be the place where he loses the ball, but he has that Saka Odegaard thing where he's not going to spill the ball cheaply. He's going to pull players towards him, pull their team to his side of the pitch, and hold on to the ball, dribble past guys, and make space for the guy he distributes to, Odegaard and whoever, and keep it clean. Whereas a Martinelli will tend to spill the ball a little bit more easily and maybe leave you a little vulnerable to the counterattack. I think one thing Nwaneri will have, these are the things that'll keep him on the pitch when normally with a younger player you'd take him off or get him on the pitch where normally you'd think he's not ready for this game. I think he's technically very, very secure, very tight with the ball, and does the off-ball work with a level of seriousness and intensity where most 18-year-olds just want to show you how good they are,
Yeah.
and still don't quite understand how important the other side of the game is. I think he's a very serious young fella. So yeah, bring it.
Yeah, bring it indeed. Last quick thing on this, by the way, I thought Calafiori was also bright again. Some of the
Yeah.
positions he takes up are so interesting, Paul. Slightly better understanding of the offside timing would have helped him at both ends of the pitch because he
Yeah,
cost us a goal.
Neto
And then,
took so much focus off Calafiori, but Calafiori daydreaming. He didn't even look to his right to see where Gabriel. Partey got it right, but he looked like a bum because he was behind his man by 5 yards.
yeah,
But that would have been fine. But everybody got distracted with Neto making a save 3/4 of the way up the pitch. So Calafiori didn't take too much heat. But yeah, he has that. He has those lapses as an actual fullback learning the role. But yeah, I thought he was really good stepping into midfield. Really clever passing, aggressive, brave, and insightful passes up the pitch. Super bright spot. So he did it through passing rather than through kind of careering runs up through the middle. So he's
yeah.
got both sides to his game. I thought he was great.
And again, the offside awareness costs him the goal as well. Just a little early going, but slides the ball through the keeper's feet. He's going to be special, I think. And we were really lucky because we have him. He's just 22, and MLS who's just 18, and Ethan Nwaneri is just 17, and it makes Saka and Martinelli and Odegaard and Saliba look like they're old men. They're not either. So back to the point about Watkins. You got a lot of young talent here. I think you can afford to go for one guy who's maybe just on the other end of the age spectrum. So, look, I don't think we need to go much deeper in this game. I think it's a good win. It's a good finish in a season where Arsenal are the crisis club, not achieving our goals. Standards FC, we're second in the Premier League, and we just qualified top 3 in the Champions League with teams like Madrid and Bayern and City adrift behind us. City rescuing themselves to get through. And now, Paul, just quickly, got into an argument in the Discord where, of course, I was making the less popular argument.
The Discord, an argument.
Impossible. But, look, I get this whole puff your chest out, to be the best, you got to beat the best. I want to play all the best teams, let's go ahead and play Madrid and Bayern and Barca. And, that's how you win the Champions League. Hey, it's a Champions League. Every game is hard. Like, okay, I get it. But you know what? If there's an easier path, I'd rather have it. They don't put asterisks next to Champions League victories. Last season, Dortmund made it to the final by being on the much easier side of the bracket. Meanwhile, Madrid, City, Bayern, we're all on our side of the bracket, right? So, yeah, I would prefer an easier path. I just would. And it just so happens that finishing third winds up getting us a pretty hard path. Now, look, the way it works out is that here are the teams we can play next. We get to skip the playoff round. We can play Feyenoord, Juve, Milan, PSV. Thoughts on that cluster? Feyenoord, Juve, Milan, or PSV?
Yeah, it's okay, right? How I think that's as good as you can reasonably ask as a cluster. If I've to pick one out of Feyenoord, Juve, who was it and who?
Milan, Juve, Feyenoord, PSV. And for what it's worth, Juve are currently in 5th. Milan are currently in 7th. They are not having great seasons. And they obviously haven't super impressed in the Champions League, or they wouldn't be one of our potential opponents.
Yeah.
But so, those
PSV.
are European giants. Going to the San Siro, for example, would be intimidating. We have some history against both of these teams in the Champions League. But what do you think? PSV, Juve, Milan, and Feyenoord. Any issues there?
Yeah, PSV, Feyenoord. We should be able to beat all of them without taking anything for granted. But at least, though, I want to play people who don't have that CL pedigree they can lean on and get themselves all fired up with a huge crowd behind them who are feisty and think they really should. I'd like us to be the big team in the next round, and European giants can have a claim to that, where Europe's different. The Champions League is different. The Champions League knockout stages are different. There's a different psychology, and we'll run into it in the next round. But in this round, if we could just play a football team as football teams rather than playing their whole history, I'll take that. And I think we can beat. You can't take anything for granted. If we play at our level, we'll beat any of the four of them. But I don't want to have to play their history too.
Yeah. So assuming we get through that, which you certainly cannot do, but I have just done, then this is where it gets interesting.
Yeah.
Celtic or
Celtic, please.
City, Bayern, Madrid, Leverkusen, or Atletico Madrid. Atleti. So it's Atleti, Leverkusen, Bayern, Madrid, or City, realistically. I mean, this is where it comes down to it. If you want to be the best, you got to beat the best. Puff out your chest like me. I'd personally play a bunch of bums, but okay.
Yeah, I'm all for playing the bums. Leverkusen.
So that would be in the quarterfinals.
Celtic, Leverkusen.
And there you go. That would be the quarterfinals. That'd be the quarterfinals. We would play one of those teams: City, Bayern, Madrid, Leverkusen, or Atleti. Forgetting which you prefer, like, I think there's going to be a narrative this season if we finish second in the Premier League and we get eliminated from the Champions League of the quarterfinals. Like, no progress. But like, if you draw Real Madrid in the quarterfinals, like, what are you going to do? So is this just one of those cases of, hey, you know what? Instead of being intimidated or scared by it, be excited about a glamorous Champions League tie against one of the titans of Europe and go measure yourself against that, you know?
Rubbish.
Hope
I'm
that
with your first opinion.
Saka's back, you know?
Play all the bums all the way through to the final where possible.
For the bums.
Look, Leverkusen, Celtic, yes, please. But look, we know it's not going to be them. It's going to be one of the other three. It's going to be Bayern, Real, or City. And you didn't ask me, but I picked City for the reasons I previously have explained to you, which is, look, they're all intimidating. But we've lost a lot of the unknown factor with City. We haven't played them in the Champions League, certainly not the Champions League knockout stages. So that'll feel different. But Real Madrid is this iconic club who wins the Champions League every year. At least that's how they walk onto the pitch, and that's how they, no thank you, right? So we know City. We played them at the Etihad. We've done well against them at the Etihad. We've even outplayed them at the Etihad at times, and we've definitely outplayed them at home. And there's nothing, all due respect to them, there's no unknowns here. And it's that is something you measure yourself against. How you're doing against City, and we know we're there or thereabouts with them. Real Madrid, we don't have that feel for where we're at. Bayern out professionaled us last year. They out projected themselves. They just carried themselves, their history, all of the, they carried their trophies onto the pitch, and we felt it in that second leg, that away leg. And I think we would feel it again. So I don't think we want to play the legends of those. If we have to, we will, and we'll be better than we were last year when we played Bayern. But I don't know if we're quite at the stage where we're confident that we think we will beat them. It's all stepping stones, but we've had that stepping stone with City. We are now, by and large, able to give them a real game, home or away, and match them. And there's no long shadow that we're intimidated by. So that'll be my pick of the three.
Yeah, and if you look at the dates when things happen, the round of 16, I think almost certainly comes too soon for Bukayo. That's my guess. The quarterfinals, it gets a little more interesting because you're into April at that point. So we'd have to see. I've already been pretty clear that I'm a skeptic on Saka's return being early enough to help us. I mean, maybe like late April, early May. So semifinal, and then of course the final. But if we could have him for that round of 16 matchup, boy, would that be exciting, right? I mean, you can put out a front three of, Saka, Nico Williams, Ollie Watkins. I'm just kidding around. He says with the window closing in a few days. Okay, well, enough of that. Last thing, real quick. City on Sunday. It just feels like in a season of it's not our season. It feels like we're catching City maybe as they can see the light at the end of the tunnel. They get Marmouche, and I thought he looked pretty bright in their last game. Kusanov didn't look great, but I don't think they need Kusanov. I think John Stones, is he back? They don't have
tell with him.
Yeah, they don't have Rodri, sure, but Holland is in some decent goal scoring form again. They got past Bruges on the last match day to qualify. And look, I don't want to overstate the degree to which City are back, but they're not, I don't think they're in the depths of hell, which is where they were just a couple of weeks ago. So we go into this game hoping for Raya to be fit, hoping to have a decent complement of attackers and midfielders. We should be all right in most places. Obviously, no Saka. How are you feeling ahead of this, and how do you want to see us set up for it?
Nervous. It's never going to be ideal without Saka because it's not just the player. That's how we build our attack. That's how we maintain pressure. That's how we avoid getting countered. The platform we build on that side of the pitch. So what can you do? It's going to be more open than it would have been, even more open than it would have been, because we won't have that. I don't think I never felt we were going to, even if we had been scheduled to play Man City when they were bad a month ago. I don't think you just never think that's going to be the case. We're going to end up playing City when they're decent. So I always assumed they were going to be decent by the time we got to them, or on the day they played us, they'd remember that they hated us and play well. So I never had that thing where I'm like, oh, maybe they'll still be crap when they get to us. They're not great yet. And I think we should settle for that, right? It's a Rodri-less Man City. I'm pretty confident for the weekend. Anything after that's a bonus. If you start thinking you'll be playing a lesser side, you'll get hurt. It might actually do us a favor that we don't think they're bad anymore, that we realize they're starting to be themselves, and we're going to have a real game. And there's no shortcuts here. We're going to have to just play at our top level and beat them. But I'm nervous. The weird thing is I haven't spent too much time thinking about this game because of the compactness and the busyness. What is it, 9 games in January? It's like, oh crap, we're playing City at the weekend.
Yeah.
We just qualified in the top, 3 in the Champions League. Oh, it's City at the weekend. It's like back to back. So it doesn't, at least I'm not crapping my pants at this stage, but I have a couple more days to do that. So.
Yeah. Well, it's going to be interesting to see, how we line up. I would say this, like, it feels like a very big game also in this respect. Liverpool go to Bournemouth on Saturday. That's a tough game. And, obviously they could win it because they're a very good team. Then they have a couple of cup ties against Spurs and Plymouth. Then they're at Everton, home to Wolves, at City, home to Newcastle, home to Southampton, at Villa. Like, it's not the easiest run.
Nope.
And it starts with this Bournemouth away game. Bournemouth coming off smacking Forest and having the midweek off. Now, to be fair, Liverpool basically gave everybody the midweek off as well. So that was an advantage to them. But like, if they can drop points at Bournemouth, leading into a very tricky period for them, that really opens the door a crack. And we just owe City. And City's been so weak. It would mean so much in front of the Emirates faithful to produce not just a win, but a positive performance where we cut them open a bit. But boy, do they still carry a lot of threat themselves. I would say this. If we can get Timber, Saliba, Gabriel, MLS or Calafiori, and Raya back there, and get Rice and Odegaard.
Marino.
Well, maybe. Yeah, maybe.
Actually,
in there.
It might be a game for him, but yeah.
We'll see. I think, get the key players out there. I think Kai thankfully had a little rest midweek, so we will probably see him come back in. I'd let Ethan go out there. Now, Ethan played, I think, 90 minutes midweek, so my guess is he's probably not in line to start against City, that he'll be back on the bench. But it's such a big game because this is the team that took so much from us the last 2 seasons. They've been down. We didn't really get them when they were down. We had the one chance earlier this season, and we got a very, very, very deserved red card to knock out the scourge of slightly kicking the ball away after the whistle, leading to the 10-men situations we all know about, and the stay humble bro, and the fight between Holland and our players. We just owe them one. If we didn't get them when they were at their absolute nadir, but maybe we can get them now. So we'll see. Tomorrow, we'll talk a little bit more about this with Clive over on the Patreon side of things. We'll do scouting videos soon. Look, if all the rumors fall apart, instead of scouting, we'll do something more relevant, but hopefully there's still reason to scout, maybe like a Nippon or Watkins or Tell or things like that. So we'll see what we're going to do there. I think we can leave it for today. Just a quick whip around of a lot of topics there to wet your whistle. Paul, thank you very much.
Woohoo!
My name is Elliot Smith, me on Twitter, Yankee Gunner. Join us tomorrow where Cloud will be back, and then Cloud will be back on the main pod on Monday, as will Tim, I believe. And we'll have an instant reaction, of course, on Sunday with everybody chip it in. So we love you. And please, dear Lord, we will talk to you after Arsenal 10. City note.